Welcome to the Filmcast's review of Magic Mike's Last Dance. I'm going to read the plot summary from IMDb. Mike takes to the stage again following a business deal that went bust, leaving him broke and taking bartender gigs in Florida. He heads to London with a wealthy socialite who lures him with an offer he can't refuse, end quote. I'm David Chen. I'm here with Devindra and Jeff. Joining us today, she is a writer whose work has appeared at Vulture and Wired Magazine. She's also the host of the Feeling Scene podcast over on Maximum Fun. Jordan Crucchiola, welcome back to the Filmcast.
Thank you so much for having me on a magical occasion such as this.
We really appreciate having you back on the podcast to discuss Magic Mike's Last Dance. Now, we reviewed and discussed the Magic Mike movies last week on an After Dark episode. And the question came up of, hey, this is a movie that Steven Soderbergh directed a decade ago, Magic Mike 1. Magic Mike XXL he did not direct, although he did shoot and edit it. And then years later, when Magic Mike is not a thing that people are expecting more movies of, Steven Soderbergh, one of the greatest directors of our generation, comes back and he's like, I want to make a new Magic Mike movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
He and so Jordan, you and I were like, he must have some kind of take. There must be some kind of take that he has.
I almost wonder if he was waiting for Channing Tatum too, because Channing Tatum took a break from like lead roles for a while. So
the true inspiration of the Magic Mike Last Dance movie is he was inspired to make the movie after watching Channing Tatum and Alison Falk, the choreographer, put together the stage show for Magic Mike. But Steven Soderbergh, who theoretically retired when making Side Effects, even though he's made like he's made like a dozen films since then.
That's how I want to retire. You know?
Yeah.
Don't take me.
Not how I want to retire at all.
That's how journalists and media people have to retire. Continuing to be more prolific than ever.
Not retiring.
Yeah.
He is back for this movie. He's I believe he directed, shot, and edited the movie. And so the question is Magic Mike's Last Dance a movie worthy of Steven Soderbergh's talents? Does he have a take that you think was worth putting on screen? Jordan Crucchiola, start us off.
It feels like there's no take whatsoever. I feel like he just wanted to hang out again. Like this felt like the most takeless of the three. It was just like, you know what? I miss filming Channing Tatum dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And Salma Hayek is great. And so surely we can make something happen with them. And that feels like it was the mandate. Like, it just really feels like somebody who missed this thing they did a long time ago and was like, what if it was my last dance with Magic Mike, though?
So it's a takeless movie, Jordan. But ultimately, though, Jordan, did you like the movie? What did you think of it overall?
I had a lovely time. I missed the thing. I walked down and checked I was like, I feel like people aren't. I don't have a problem with this. I feel like people aren't really taking it well. And I saw like a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes, which feels very rude. Guys, just give it a cool 60, 65. Like we're having a nice time. If you came to Magic Mike's Last Dance for anything but dancing and just seeing Channing be an unbelievably beautiful screen presence with an unbelievably beautiful screen presence compliment in Salma Hayek, like, I don't know what you were there for.
Mm-hmm.
I missed I missed knowing him in a group. Mike works so well with his vibes with his other dancers, and when we just get to see them briefly in this movie, like on a Zoom call with him, it was so nice. And we don't really get to know any of the dancers in Last Dance, so that was a thing that I missed. But other than that, I was like, I was served what I ordered when I punched a ticket to this movie, and a whole row behind me was women who came together straight from the Cheesecake Factory, there to get their entire lives, and they seemed very happy. So I think that this movie is a success based on their reactions behind me as well.
All right. It's a success for Jordan. She got what she ordered. Devindra Hardawar, your thoughts on Magic Mike's Last Dance?
You know, guys, I did not expect this series to end up being one of my favorite trilogies, like going on right now, but here we are. But one thing I noticed during this movie, it's a Cinderella story. And actually, all of these movies have basically been fairy tales. And the first one is kind of a grim fairy tale. Like, hey, there's some magic here, but darkness. The second was pure light, pure whatever. Let's just hang out. Let's have vibes. This one is very much, it feels more of like a traditional fairy tale template where he's down and out. He gets this like once in a million opportunity to go to London and do something. Doesn't seem believable, but whatever. It's a fairy tale, guys. Just roll with it. And I think I had a lot of fun with this movie. I'd say my main criticisms are not enough dancing early on. I think that first scene with him and Salma Hayek was pretty great, pretty hot. And the movie just kind of like your world building, you're getting introduced to all the people in London. It kind of like just sputters for a while up until the guys do something else. There's like a group dance on a bus, which is fun, and like the big finale. Like I think the ending they kind of saved a lot there. But unlike Magic Mike XXL, I can't just point to like various set pieces within the middle to be like, oh, that's fun. Pony was fun. The gas station was fun. And there's like not enough of those in here. But I do like Salma Hayek here. I think they have like genuine chemistry. And I just wish like this movie had more time to focus on her character and like, okay, what is the deal with her and her husband? What is the deal with the daughter, who I think is really interesting as a presence? I just would have liked a little more time there. And I don't know, like maybe tighten up the movie in that respect. But beyond that, like it is also, it's a hangout movie in a different way. It's Mike getting the chance to like put on the show of his dreams. I think that part of it is just like really compelling. I saw it at a late night screening here, so that was unfortunate because it was just me in a giant theater. Like it was like the number one theater at this Regal, and I'm like, okay, well, it's Magic Mike all to myself. The first time I saw the first Magic Mike, it was like post brunch in a boozy like Brooklyn cinema, and like that was the way it was. Like, yeah, all the ladies behind me like freaking out over this movie. I really missed that experience, and I can't wait to watch this with my wife because she is a huge Salma Hayek fan. So, like, I think if you like these people, I think this is kind of what you've been asking for. My only thing, I kind of wish they brought in some of the gang, at least like one of the gang. Bring in Joe Manganiello to like do his thing, at the end. But beyond that, like I had a lot of fun with this. It's not as consistently fun as the second one, but I think I still enjoy it a lot more. It's more rewatchable than the first, I'd say, which is kind of a bummer of a movie, as we've talked about.
Yeah. Well, I think it reminds me of Jeff Canada talking about his infinity pool experience watching in a theater, where it was like, there was like a dozen people and they're all single dudes, all spaced out all throughout the theater,
all hands in their pockets.
That feels like being in a red light district theater. With
it's
a
that
bunch
scene
of
in
guys.
Taxi Driver where he takes her on the date. Yeah.
Jeff Canada, your thoughts on Magic Mike's Last Dance?
Well, Dave, I guess you could say my thoughts on Magic Mike's Last Dance are best summed up in the form of a limerick. This film's an absolute mess. If you're here for more fun, you get less. There's all these new guys, but the film barely tries. They're not strippers, they're props who undress.
Wow.
I am clearly not the target audience for this. I'll mostly shut up during this review. But weirdly, over the last week, having watched the last two Magic Mike movies back to back, I got weirdly invested in this franchise. And this movie could not have been less of what I want, less interesting. It makes absolutely no sense, which I would like to step through when we get to spoilers. But again, I can shut up mostly because if this is my experience of watching this movie was I went to a 1:30 p.m. afternoon showing on a Friday by myself. I don't mean by myself in the sense that the theater was empty. I mean by myself in that I went by myself.
Wow.
My mom was in town, and there was a point
at
which I was going to be taking my mom to see this.
You should have.
And unfortunately, my wife got COVID, and so my mom had to be childcare. We don't need to get into that. But the point is, I went by myself, a creepy dude in a hoodie, by myself, and I sat in a row with two, I don't know, 20-something, late 20 girls who were clearly there to have a great time. And the first scene happens with Salma Hayek and Channing Tatum, and they are getting exactly what they want. I'm like, this is amazing. This is hot. We're in Magic Mike territory, baby. Yeah. He's back. And they are like whooping and like all that stuff. And then dead silence for the rest of the movie. Because the movie gives you nothing else until the very last scene, which is also super hot, but features a female very prominently, which I enjoyed very, very much.
I mean, same. Like, you're not special for that, Jeff.
Well, I'm not claiming to be special. I'm just pointing out my experience. I think again, I will try to be as brief as I can. this movie makes absolutely no sense to me. Not because it's a fairy tale, but because Magic Mike keeps getting things he doesn't want, and then the movie all of a sudden decides that he wants them, even though he never wanted them in the first place. There literally is no goal for Magic Mike in this movie at any point. There's no stakes for anybody except maybe Salma Hayek, but even her, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters until the very end when when it just like, they tell us that it matters. None of all of the dancing with all of the nameless, personality-less extras that we get, all of those are like gymnastics demonstrations, which are impressive, but Dallas would not have any of that.
You're
It
right.
does
If
move
you
away
brought
from the
Dallas into this
scripting.
thing, he would be like,
Yes.
what the hell are you doing? No woman is getting excited. You know, that scene where Dallas teaches the kid in the first movie how to actually be sexy, there's nothing like that in this. It's non-existent. Magic Mike just looks at those guys doing backflips and goes, wow. It's like, what? Those aren't strippers. There's no stripping. It's an athletic demonstration of it, and it's impressive. They're very good at that. But like, anyway, I have lots more to say. I'm probably not going to say it because clearly my view isn't shared. But I think this movie is a disaster as far as a entry into this franchise and anything that is remotely entertaining. Like, there is voiceover narration in this movie that is dreadful. It's like, what is it doing here? What is it even doing?
The thing is, all those logistical points you're saying are true.
Yeah.
I had a good time. All of them are true. Like, no dispute, no stakes. You're right. It is extremely funny how right you are about Mike doesn't want any of this.
Right.
That is extremely true. And it's just like, that's why what I was saying, it was just pure takeless movie. It's like, I just think Steven wanted to hang out with his friend Channing again.
Yeah.
And it just,
Yes. If they had just
wow.
released that last dance in the water
Oh, my
as a
God.
short, and you've done it. That's all we need. Everything else in this movie is, or the first dance and the last dance are the only things that are even remotely worth watching in this movie, in my opinion.
They are franchise highlights. They do manage to become, I think, trilogy highlights. Those two Channing scenes.
They're very good. They're very good. Let me push back against Jeff and try to make the case for the film. Okay, before I agree with Jeff and make the case against the film, right? So my only pushback, Jeff, is I largely feel the same way as Jeff. I think the movie is not very good, and it is shocking to me that Steven Soderbergh made the two worst Magic Mike movies. But and I agree with pretty much everything Jeff said about the plot. The whole time I'm wondering to myself, why does Magic Mike keep saying, I'm not dancing anymore. I don't do the dancing thing anymore. Like, that's not me anymore. Why does he
Heart's been broken, man.
What is the point? What is the point of that? And then I realized he is the Steven Soderbergh surrogate in this movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Steven Soderbergh.
Yes.
Steven Soderbergh has said when Side Effects came out, he's like, I'm done. I hate the way movies are made. I don't want to make them anymore. The industry holds no appeal for me. I am retiring. And then for some reason, he just keeps coming back. He keeps coming back, right? And it's because his sheer talent is so great.
Yep.
That it's like, it must be shared with the world. And as a metaphor for Soderbergh's career, it works for me.
I think that's...
Because, like, why I like that is because, like, at this point, like, he's got all his flowers. Like, I mean, like, he has nothing left to prove. So, like, it is just vibes.
Yes.
For Steven Soderbergh at this point, this movie is just vibes. So, like, the crescendo of, like, whatever he does next, it's like, I already did. I did all the great shit, guys. This is just for me at this point. So it's like, why is Mike in London? I don't know. She's hot. Why is Steven Soderbergh making this movie? I don't know. She's hot. Like, period.
Yeah.
But it would have been so easy to give Channing Tatum or Mike, literally, all you have to say is, man, I've always wanted to make this thing I do seem legit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All of a sudden you have an actual theater with actual, like, At no point do we get any motivation from him at all for anything that he's doing.
Right.
I think the thing,
the other thing I'll say, Jeff, though, is to defend the movie is that like, yes, the male feats of athleticism are not in a stripping context like there were in the first two films. But the defense of that is like, hey, we already saw that. We already saw like tons of stripping, and it's like, why not have a slightly different take of
this is
it
about capital D dance
in this movie?
You know,
Yeah,
It's
this is
capital
about
D.
strip.
This
As
is about the big
voiceover
D, right?
you hate tells us so much that
Mhm.
like the meaning of dance, what is dance, what does dance do?
Mhm.
Somehow we've arrived at the third
It's
Magic
bad.
Mike, a meditation on dance.
Dance.
Okay.
It's not great.
Right.
It's not great narration, but again, very fairy tale like, and actually reminds me of like old school, almost like 19th century novel type things. Like it takes Magic Mike to this sort of like Victorian era feeling. Whatever, his motivation though is interesting because it's like every time we find him, he is kind of at a low, right? At the beginning of the first movie, even at the beginning of the second movie, like things are just not really working out for him. Now he's like, he's 40, he's a gig worker, and I feel like he speaks to a lot of people who are like, what do I do? What do I have left to offer the world? And
It's
this,
a great setup.
yeah,
The
it's a great
opening
setup.
narration
Do nothing with
rules.
it.
The opening narration that like much like so many 40-year-old millennials, like I was like, oh wow,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
like wiped out by a perfect acknowledgement of the pandemic. Like it
Yes.
destroyed this guy's thing.
That's what it is.
The
But
first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of this movie, I thought this movie was going to be a home run. I'm like, oh my God, we've set up this metaphor for today. Salma Hayek comes in. They get the hottest dance I've ever seen in my life.
It's
Yes.
We're
extraordinary.
in a Magic Mike movie. This is going to be great. And then the movie proceeds to take a turd on all of that, in my opinion.
I gotta agree, by the way, with Jeff about the voiceover. This was like, honestly, this reminded me of Harrison Ford's now deleted voiceover from Blade Runner, the original. It was
I
like
think-
that terrible.
yeah, he
Like-
did it to troll everybody because Steven Soderbergh knows everybody hates narration. You put narration, garbage. Your movie goes straight to the trash. He's like, I'm going to give you narration from a precocious teen, motherfuckers.
You know what
You're
was?
gonna
You know what
deal
this
with it.
movie ends up being though is like this is the most in its despite being like I think Devindra is totally right. This is a fairy tale. Despite being the most like pure fairy tale of it, it's also kind of the most naturalistic
Mhm.
because this is the most like a real person Mike has ever seemed. Some hot guy who's that hot. He is just coasting, you guys. Like this guy's been like, I don't know. Like it's and just having things handed to him over. I know people like him who it's just like a friend of mine was talking about his ex. He got like kicked out of his apartment building for some reason, and this guy's extremely beautiful. And he was just like, my friend was like, "Oh, what are you gonna do? Like, I'm so sorry that you're having to deal with that." And his response was like, it'll be fine. I find that like people are really nice and like the generosity of others like usually comes through for me.
Works
it's like,
out. Yeah.
Because it can! Because it does and it will! He ended up living in some apartment in San Diego for free! For free! Who does that happen to? It happens to very hot people. They don't have to have motivations, ambitions, plans, or goals. If you just end up with the right person who wants to grab you by the hand and pull you along, if you're a certain kind of hot, you will go and you'll just okay your way into ends and means. It's crazy. I couldn't get over in this movie how it's just like, this has actually ended up being like the most accurate slice of life movie that a Magic Mike has been yet.
This
in
is
this
what
way.
would
That's
happen.
never been
Yeah.
who Mike is. The dude
No,
has
I know,
always
but
had
it's
dreams.
crazy how it ended up being what real life is.
Well,
His dream, he's 40, Jeff. He's 40.
He's
Dreams
40.
are done.
believe me.
No
I-
more dreams in this life. My broader point about the relationship is that they say this in the movie. She brings out the best in him, like something he never realized he wanted. I think that is kind of it. He gets into it. He gets into doing the shows. Like, oh, I've never thought of myself as a director, but he gets into it. He has ideas, you know. And similarly, like she says that about him, like, oh, he actually believes in her. I wish their core relationship, rather than like the stuff this movie does spend time on, I wish it spent more time with them because I do think like they are really good together,
Mhm.
and that would sell it more as a romance, you know.
Can I just say the most unrealistic part of this movie is the idea that his furniture business would be negatively hurt by COVID? I don't know about you all, but like COVID was a time when a lot of people made home improvements. Also, his stuff is like custom. It's not like he's like relying on Chinese distributors. Like
Yeah.
it's like custom. It makes no sense to
You
me.
still
Anyway,
can't get
Also-
materials, man. Supply chain. It's
Oh,
all
you're right.
messed up.
Supply chain. Supply chain.
Supply chain. Just say that.
Yeah, just say that.
Jordan, you brought up the Zoom call, which to me is like the best scene in the entire movie that's not dancing.
It's really nice.
So at one point in the movie, Mike Lane has a Zoom call with all of his old buddies from Magic Mike XXL that are prominently not in this film. And that's the only exposure we get to them in this film.
It's the only time the movie has any spark of life for me. I was like, oh, the people that I like from previous movies. It's the hashtag family. But
it almost makes it harder having them there because you immediately miss them when they're gone.
Yes,
you do. And also,
it's like, maybe we shouldn't have done that because they're so great together.
The setup is he owes them money. And he got this opportunity to have complete creative control doing something they would be really good at. He can do whatever he wants. He has a blank check. Well, bye, guys. I'll see you later.
Peace out, guys. Yeah.
Maybe they had their last dance too. Yeah, I love, like, I thought it was so ham-fisted that it became like adorable how much this movie was like anti-misogyny, the way that it laid on so thick of like women can have it all, and Channing Tatum
permission is the most,
isn't it misogynist? We don't have female, like, it was so on the nose that it became very cute. And like you have Kevin Nash, big sexy from WWE, saying at one point, "Hey man, sex work is work." I was like, honestly, this is charming as hell. Okay, like I'll take how incredibly not subtle any of this is because it's just really well-meaning. Okay.
I guess I feel like the second film made those points without literally saying them out loud.
No,
you know
that's
what I mean?
Why
Right?
It was great to just watch it be like, hey, let's hit it harder. Huh? This is nice. This is good. It was like, sure, that's nice of you. Like, okay, ally. Like, yeah, ally.
My favorite part of that Zoom call, and then I think we should get the spoilers, is that it had some of the worst audio and video quality that I've ever seen.
Was that a real transatlantic Zoom? That was nuts.
I think it was.
Verisimilitude, Dave. Verisimilitude.
It had a level of audio video quality that I would find acceptable for this podcast, let alone a Steven Soderbergh film. Yeah. Like if Steven Soderbergh was wild. Like, hey, David Chen, you're going to be second AD on this one. Make a Zoom call with everyone. It would look and sound way better than what you saw in that.
This is Steve Nash, by the way.
Yeah, and it just kept freezing, and I was like, I feel like this was not done in post. This video is just dying.
Yeah, they like legitimately set up a Zoom call and just
did.
Well, because he's also in one of those like old England houses that probably doesn't have great Wi-Fi. You know what I mean? So like, anyway, okay. Well, those are our
somehow ended up being the most naturalistic Magic Mike.
Those are our non-spoiler thoughts on Magic Mike's Last Dance. Let's get to spoilers starting right now. I have a couple big issues with this movie. One of them is that, I mean, from a plot perspective, it's complete nonsense because there's this moment in the movie where it's like, oh, hey, the building code can't support you modifying the stage. And I'm like, oh my. And then they have this big scene in the rain where he like confronts me. He's like, don't let this be the end. And I'm actually getting emotional. I'm watching. I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be
great.
This will suck. But they're surely gonna find some ingenious way to make it work. Like maybe they'll do the show on the street, or maybe they'll rent some other theater or something like that. And literally, from what I can tell, the solution was Magic Mike just kept the keys to the theater and did the show.
Not only that, he ruins it. He ruins it with water. He literally sprays water over this historical landmark.
Incredible.
They did the show in secret. Like that is the key. Like, we can't do it officially.
But the building code woman was there at the show. You know,
sure,
like
whatever.
She needed a night.
Oh my god.
She needed a night.
How
I love that
ridiculous is that?
I love that we think we're gonna meet a bad guy, but we like never do, because the ex isn't like really a bad guy. He's just kind of an ex. Like it's like, oh, he's just like, okay, like the relations seem like polite but strained, and he like, we're meant to believe that the big bad is his mother. Like the matriarch of this family is like, Mom, if you've got a problem with her in the theater, like I can't have this fight. You're gonna have to. And I was like, we're gonna get like Helen Mirren as the mom. Like some posh British woman is gonna like square off with Salma Hayek on the. Never appears, never happens.
She's too busy
everything
with
is through like intermediaries and third parties. It was like, we're just never gonna. There's never a bad guy. It's just gonna be man versus self. This entire movie. Okay, fine, sure, that's okay. Those are our terms of engagement.
The scene with the inspector lady who by the way, we are told has gone to see Swan Lake and shut it down because she is so cold-hearted. The thing that opens her heart up is an Improv Anywhere on a bus
of Swan Lake. Don't forget, you know, Jeff,
yeah, of the White Swan.
I was like, okay, we're gonna see something freaking amazing. Like they're gonna seduce this chick. This is gonna be Ocean's 11 style. They're gonna freaking seduce this chick.
They set it up like Ocean's 11 too. It's fun.
It's like.
Yeah. I was like, this guy, he's made some Ocean's movies. Before. He knows what he's doing.
It's like a 90-second. They spend zero time on it. The guy's like, do a couple of moves, and then there's a dude dressed like a bird at the end, and she's like, "Oh yeah, no, anything you want for yours." There's no. It's asinine. It's asinine.
It's wild.
Well, okay. Yeah. I don't disagree with you there, Jeff.
Yeah. I will say, Jeff, you sound like somebody who has never been on a subway and encountered like a group of dancers just like launch out in front of you. That's what it was. That was a showtime in London. And
Improv Anywhere.
The best showtime everywhere. Improv Anywhere, sure. Yeah. But in New York, they just do it. Like kids just start dancing. It's fun.
Yeah. Okay. Here is where the film's fatal flaw comes in for me personally. Okay. And Jordan, I'm curious what you think about this. But like, for this movie to really work at the end, that you can forgive all these crimes. Yes, it has the dancing. So it's like fundamentally it works because it has the dancing. The dancing is good. The water dancing at the end is incredible. Channing Tatum's just like, I want to dance in water again. And, you know, he got it. And we all can celebrate that. So like the movie justifies itself.
He wanted to step up to the stage.
That's right.
I was like, oh my God, we've entered a step up movie.
Yes. But
this is amazing.
But for the movie to really work, in my opinion, you have to really buy this love story. Like that's kind of what the whole thing hinges on. And you can forgive like this incredibly dumb plot if the love story is good. And I never bought it because, look, guys, I'm not going to get too into detail here. There's nothing weird. I'm just saying I have been in situations before where there is a rich benefactor.
Wow, Dave. Put on a stripper show in London?
and where a rich benefactor is like paying you so that you'll do something, right? Like that happens with some regular. It's a very common plot line in movies, and I have been in that situation in various permutations in my life.
I need to get in that situation.
The relationship is not it's never like a good romantic relationship. It's not a good foundation for romance because there is a very clear power dynamic. And also, it's not clear to me that like this woman is reasonable. Like people are actually bringing up to her like, hey, maybe you should shunt down this like extremely successful play to get revenge on your husband for one night and possibly endanger your inheritance and all this stuff like that. And so it's like there's at that rain scene when like Channing Tatum confronts her, he's like, you know, don't let this be the end. You are so good at this. And it's like, really? Like all I've seen is her like make all these like random demands that are just based on, you know, gut feeling and, you know,
is that not just being a producer, Dave? Come on. Come on. We all know producers. Come on.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm not saying it's unrealistic. I'm just saying for me to believe that it's like she's really good at this and that they have a really good working relationship. Like all I saw was them screaming at each other a lot. And I don't feel like that, you know, I didn't feel like this is like a collaboration of intellectual equals.
We need to spend more time with them together. I feel like that was the main thing. Yeah.
You know that this entire movie lifted its plot from season 1 of Ted Lasso, right?
I've not watched Ted Lasso.
Oh, you would
love that.
Lasso gets brought in to run this thing as a lark to get back at her husband because she got the soccer team in the divorce. It's literally exactly the same thing.
Yeah, but she in Ted Lasso she wanted the soccer team to fail though. You know, in this one she doesn't want to fail. Quote
she
unquote.
wants to like
that's like Major League. Also, like the rich woman gets the team, and like that's a thing that happens too. I actually did like it's you know, it was from pure star power and chemistry. I bought into Salma Hayek and Channing Tatum. I did. I absolutely what I wanted because we couldn't have like the guys together again. What I really wanted was like. I really liked by the end of the movie how it seemed like there was this fun little unit between the footman and the daughter and Mike. And it was like, oh, I wish we had spent the movie actually watching that develop. I would have loved it if the kind of like, if that little family tribe had become a fun little motley crew. I think that would have filled in the emotional gaps that I missed from having all the guys together. I wish we had been able. That's really the one thing I wish we had been able to like forge.
That's
more
the real
fully.
Power of dance.
Because it was,
found
I
dance.
mean,
Yes.
beyond the power of dance,
Yeah.
you know,
Jordan,
I
I don't
would
know
love
if you're-
some more
I don't know if you're aware.
acknowledgments of like their burgeoning affection for one another. Because Channing Tatum like is so good at selling that like winking charm, like in just like those brief interactions, like where he's at sort of the breakfast bar with the daughter and they're talking. I was like, yeah, this guy's gonna charm her. She's gonna give in to him. He's gonna be like, listen, you're smarter than I am. But like on the power of Smolder, I completely bought into Selma and Channing. So by the end of it, I was like, you know what? I am actually totally sold on them. We could have filled this out more, but because these two are so dynamic in this particular mode, they did the magic work.
Yeah.
They, I think, kind of cast the spell over the movie that it did need
I
in
did
lieu
not
of more
the-
substance.
The notion that he falls for her came as a shock to me. Because at one point the little movie just says it. The daughter is like, "So why do you love her so much?" And I was like, "Oh, he don't." And he's like, "Oh, I don't know." I was like, "Whoa, he do?"
At that point, I was just like, I mean, he would, because like he asserts so many times over and over, like the very start, it's like, I'm not going to take your 6,000 little and your 60,000 after the dance turns into them sleeping
because
together.
he's not a prostitute. That's what.
Well, but if he was a sex worker, that would be fine. Take cash for sex, that's okay. Like he repeatedly could be like, listen, like I got friends to pay back. That's also important to me. Like we learn over and over again, they very kind of like push in front of us hard. Like Mike's not going to take the money, so he really could leave at any time. He's into this woman, and they again, this could have been filled out better in the story. But like based on the telling and not showing that they did for me, it wasn't the most artful way to do it. But based on the telling and not showing, by the time we got to the point, I was like, yeah, I know he's in love with her. I've been told he's in love with her, and the way that they look each other at that dinner, that covered a lot of ground for me. And I actually thought the scene in the cab was really well handled, with her getting loosey-goosey and tipsy and then like kissing him and him being like, I just want to make sure, when she had established like, we're not going to be sexually involved throughout the time of this. I actually thought that played very well.
Yeah.
That
for me, like it is chemistry. Like it is one of those things. We talked about the first movie where I would describe that relationship as anti-chemistry.
Gosh.
You know, like black hole of chemistry. This is just like, oh,
Tough
you
stuff.
put two of the most beautiful people on earth together. You have them do a sexy dance for 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay. Salma Hayek, you tell me to come to London to do whatever I want for a show. Yeah. I'm in love with you now, Salma Hayek.
True life right there.
I mean,
the easiest sell of all time.
Here's the thing, Jeff. I agree with you that it's not on the page, but I gotta agree that these two have really great chemistry, and that goes a long way in a movie like this. You know,
I think they had great chemistry in that first scene, but the movie constantly has to tell you. She constantly says that dance really opened something up in me. I was like, hey, maybe show that instead of just say it. It's ridiculous. My other big qualm with this movie, where it just fundamentally fails from a plot perspective, to me, is I mean, literally every note to me is a failure, but the notion that the thing they actually put on is transgressive or daring in any way. I have seen half a dozen shows in a theater just like that are easily as provocative or sexy. The dancing, like if they had actually put on a Dallas McConaughey style strip show in that theater, it may have felt transgressive. It may have felt like a statement of doing something in that's discordant with the atmosphere. Nothing that they put on. I mean, it's like any review you would go see in London. It's like there's nothing out of the ordinary about it, other than they went there to see a play, right?
Yeah.
I think what it was interesting. I appreciated this over the course of it. Just really sort of sitting in awe of the power of Channing Tatum on screen, particularly in this franchise, where you so feel the absence of him in motion and his dancing between his big opener and the big closer in the water, that it was like, wow, it's so amazing that all of these guys who are so talented, they're doing remarkable things. Like never that it is very like not even like connected to sex often, which is quite funny to me. But it was like, wow, it's so amazing watching these guys who are just accomplish these incredible feats, and they're not nearly as watchable as Channing Tatum. Like just to be even when there are scenes that are filmed to romanticize each one of these dancers when they get their moments individually, I walked out of the movie more impressed actually than I even was before by Channing Tatum. Just seeing the absolute energy sucking ability that he has to draw your eyes on the screen in his 2 numbers. I was like, man, what a bummer for everyone in this movie that
But
isn't Channing
isn't
Tatum.
that a bad thing for the
Holy
movie?
shit.
Because we
Well,
spend
I mean,
a lot of
it
time
has
with
the-
not Channing Tatum.
effect of- it has the unfortunate effect of being like, it would be cool if every one of these dance numbers was Channing Tatum. But it also like because I just like at that point had decided like I like this. I was just like, man, what an incredible testament to the shocking screen presence of Channing Tatum to know how much I missed him at every moment I wasn't watching him dancing,
But-
even when I was watching Incredible Dance.
But did
Like,
you feel
Twitch
that in the
was,
second
like,
movie?
The only man in this entire, rest in peace Twitch was the only other man in these 3 movies that has been able to put on a dancing spectacle that was as passionate and compelling as Channing Tatum was, and they did it in tandem in Magic Mike XXL. So but Channing, I mean, he really stands alone. I mean, he's not the best dancer in the world, but he might be the best dancer for a movie in the world.
Can I just say that I actually shout out to that Italian guy? I think he was from Rome or something.
Real good.
So
Wow.
there's this guy where like Selma Hayek's like, hey, I found this guy on my phone. Like, we got to get him in, and then they bring him in, and then he does a dance. Like that scene where he dances for her felt to me almost like the thesis for the movie, which is like, what if we could do like a stage version of what you saw in the first 2 movies, basically.
Mhm.
And I thought it was really, really beautifully done.
It's devoid of sex appeal, in my opinion. It's devoid of eroticism. It's a demonstration of incredibly amazing dance and athleticism and beauty and grace. But there's no I want to put $1 in your pants. Not a second of that. The other thing is, I'm not going to come at any particular actor, but the woman who transforms into our MC for the final show needs to be aware that she's going to be compared to Jada Pinkett Smith.
I mean, that's just real unfortunate.
That's
Like to come in the
sad.
everybody is going to exist in the shadow of Rome. I think that's a definitive Jada Pinkett Smith performance. She
like-
stole me somehow. I mean, and nobody can be faulted for me for not being Jada Pinkett Smith as Rome.
Well,
bisexual icon.
Don't literally do the same thing. Like, if you understand that Jada Pinkett Smith's going to cast that kind of shadow on the exact same kind of role in the don't do it. Be smart enough as a movie to go, oh, maybe this will feel less than in comparison, because it does, in my opinion. Sorry.
Well, Jeff doesn't always get this passionate about movies, but I think
Great to be passionate.
Here's what I think. Here's what I interpret Jeff's reaction as is a testament to how good Magic Mike XXL was. Right. I think at the end of the day, that is truly a movie that did not get its due. It was really not very well reviewed. It did worse than the first film, and now is widely hailed as a masterpiece.
But I think that was one of those ones where it seemed like there was an apparent divergence between audience reception and that institutional reception at the time, where like from the masses, from the audience score, I do feel like that movie, from the people, anybody who saw it whose job was not to review it professionally, it did seem to be that was like, oh yeah, that movie is so much fun. Like, I didn't know a single person who wasn't like, put the poster on my wall. I think that was like the proletariat. I do think spoke accurately to that movie at the time.
The people
of its
were
release.
right for that. You were mentioning like how some of these dances didn't seem very erotic, Jeff. I have to say though, I think this movie has a sense of eroticism, like from the first dance and certainly the last stuff, and even the like conversations between Salma Hayek and Channing Tatum. Like, I think that car ride is pretty great. Actually, it reminded me almost of like, not to like compare it to like an incredible movie, but like Before Sunset. Car rides between couples where the emotions aren't quite there and things are kind of volatile, I think are really interesting. That was kind of on that level for me. Soderbergh has talked about like, it is weird that we're in a very sexless world right now. He's kind of railed against that in the MCU movies. I had to sit and watch a lot of like Twitter threads this weekend about people saying, thank God this person doesn't want to do sex scenes. And I almost wanted to like leave this planet, because I'm like, guys, yes, some sex scenes can be gratuitous. That does not mean they're all gratuitous. They can't serve narrative functions. A movie can just be kind of erotic and kind of hot. And I think this movie, at least, maybe not in the same way as the others, this one at least has that vibe. There's a sense of eroticism here that I don't feel in a lot of movies these days.
I know I said I would shut up, and I haven't.
Yeah,
I
you
will
definitely shut up,
acknowledge
Jeff.
that.
Yeah.
I will acknowledge that. So the audience, save your emails to me. I will say, I think, now, I love Salma Hayek. She's incredible.
Simply does not wane. That
Here
I
in the
love.
end, there is no but, right?
There is no but. There is no but. But I
Jeff was
think
like, I'm going to not talk much. There is no but. But
Yeah. No, I
great.
own it.
Keep it
I
up.
own my hypocrisy. I think this movie is more the movie I want to see if it's about Channing Tatum meeting that chick he does the dance with at the end. Because then the dance at the end is freaking amazing because we know who that is. We care who that is. She's not some random ballerina that he calls up in the middle of the day.
she was the Swan Lake ballerina that gets railroaded by the cancellation of the play. And then you see her again and you're like, she got a new job and it's being sexy with Channing Tatum.
Yes, but that should be the culmination. Like having Salma Hayek just sit and watch him be hot with some other woman does not, to me, feel like the romantic crescendo of a movie. Whereas being awesome and hot and sexy, I don't know, like both of the other Magic Mike movies where his love interest is the person he's super hot and sexy with on stage at the end of the movie. That's what I'm saying. I'll stop talking.
It would be, I think, I don't know. I think Maxandra, I think she's down
What a
with
name.
it. I think maybe Maxandra likes to watch. A tribute to her passion with Magic Mike, a timeline of their passion. I love it ended like a Saw movie where it's like, let's show you the movie in 90 seconds to remind you what happened.
Yeah.
And we get like their greatest hits throughout the movie. Awesome. It was sexy the first time. Show me again.
But okay, I can't believe you're making me defend this movie, Jeff, but here we are. I mean,
I love this.
That's the point. Yeah.
I mean, the point of the whole movie is Maxandra is drawing out Max's storytelling abilities and his ability to like direct and create this theater show, right?
Well, she's just like, give me something real. Be vulnerable. Be honest.
Yeah. So yes, I think it's a little bit random that it's with another woman at the end. Like I also was a little bit distracted by that, but at the end of the day, thematically, it fits in with the story, which is, it's not like, hey, I want to do the sexy dance with Salma Hayek. The sexy dancing with Salma Hayek is at the beginning, and it's going to happen after the movie. The sexy dance at the end of the movie is about Channing Tatum finally figuring out what the ending of the show is going to be, which is like, this is me telling the story of us via this format that you've encouraged me to invest in. Right.
Okay.
And you can give one of the great lines of the movie, I need a plumber and a ballerina. And then we just leave that and go.
Yeah.
And you're like, thank God I'm going to get what I saw in the trailer.
So
I thought halfway through this movie, I was like, is this movie going to have the absolute gall to have Magic Mike's actual last dance be the first 5 minutes of this movie? Like, he's never going to dance again in this movie? Because that would be sick. The other quick thing is, you talk about him like becoming a great director. I will just say, as someone who has been in many, many, many stage plays and has been directed by many, many, many directors, if any director did what he does in this movie, which is, no, do it like this. Literally just acts out what you're supposed to do. That is rule number one of directing, is don't fucking do that.
Well, if the director is the best at
doesn't matter.
I don't know what it's like for dance, though.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think it might be different for dance, but I think you are right. You have a good point, Jeff, which is that like, I think the movie is very bad about the making of all of this stuff, in my opinion. It like him making it the last time. You don't see him figuring out how to do it. He doesn't have a scene where he's like writing or figuring out, I wanted to have this and this. It's not a good making of behind the scenes process movie at all, right? And that's a shame. That's a shame because there's a real opportunity. Like, that is theoretically the motivation behind making the movie from Steven Soderbergh. He's like, I saw Channing Tatum and Alison Falk making this stage show, and I wanted to capture that magic. And I'm like, I don't think you captured it, Steven. I'm sorry. Like, it didn't capture like what it is like. Jeff, you and I have been, I don't know about Jordan, I don't know about Devindra, but like we've been part of like stage shows before. Like there's an alchemy of like, oh, we're like running ideas off each other and like stuff is happening. And like none of that's in the movie, in my opinion. Right. So,
Correct.
but
I don't don't think we're really meant to be truly sincerely sold on like she's a great producer, a great director. He's a wife guy and she's in love with him. Like they just are so into each other that they're like, you're the best thing that's ever happened to anything, right?
That's
Good for
really
them.
that's it.
Good for them.
It is.
And like I don't know that nobody in that room says like you're the best director I've ever worked with, Mike. They're just like really happy. Like
It's an expression
he's
of
just
the honeymoon
making
period.
them happy.
Yeah.
They're having fun together. Like, and I think that's just and even when the actress comes in from the play who ends up being the Rome stand-in in this movie, like she's just like wants to be dick down. Like that's like her whole motivation is like I'm so tired of the Regency. Like, can we do something fun? Like I want to burn this theater down. And it's just like they're just having a good time. I didn't think at any point that anybody was like this luminary. The funniest thing to me about this movie is that it's like for one night. Like I love that it's like at one night and then they both just end up like sexy broke people. Like all of it was for just like a night to prove things to each other and to fall in love. I was like, oh, just a single night, huh? Oh, okay.
I mean, I do have to say that like going from Cody Horn to Amber Heard to Salma Hayek is like a pretty incredible arc for Magic Mike.
I mean, and he had Jada Pinkett Smith in there in the prehistory.
In the prehistory. Yeah. Okay.
There's also you just have to shout out, for all this movie's faults, and I believe I have enumerated as many as I can. It does have a sick Magic Mike pun. I'm going to use this Magic Mike to talk to you folks. And I'm like, literally no one in that audience is getting that reference. That's amazing.
For us. That's for the folks at home.
That was good. All right, folks. Well, I think that is a great place to end it. But at the end of the day, despite everything that me and Jeff said, it's really impressive that Steven Soderbergh made a movie.
It is. I feel like you did not agree with me enough, Dave. You said you were going to agree with me, and then you disagreed with me constantly.
Thank you so much for watching this video of the Filmcast. Check out these other videos that we have available, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to get other videos from us in the future.
You can also go to thefilmcast.com to catch all of our audio podcast versions of all of our episodes.
And support this podcast at patreon.com/filmpodcast, where you can sign up for ad-free episodes and exclusive After Darks.
Thanks so much to everyone who makes the Filmcast possible.